at the first Pearl River International Trade Forum and deliver a keynote speech in Guangzhou on October the 14th. The floor is open to questions now. CCTV. I wonder if you could provide any information on the possible meeting between the Chinese and U.S. heads of state. Following the spirit of the phone call between Chinese and the U.S. heads of state on September the 10th, member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee and director of the Office of the Central Commission for Foreign Affairs Yang Jiechi met with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in Zurich, Switzerland. The two sides had a comprehensive, candid, and in-depth exchange of views on China-U.S. relations and international and regional issues of common concern. During their phone call on September the 10th, the two heads of state agreed to maintain frequent contact by multiple means. To act on their consensus, Director Yang Jiechi and NSA Jake Sullivan discussed during the meeting a video conference between the two heads of state before the end of this year. Next question, please. CRI. How do you comment on the meeting between Director Yang Jiechi and NSA Sullivan? How does China see the meeting and how do you envision China-U.S. relations after the meeting? The meeting was constructive and conducive to enhancing mutual understanding. Director Yang Jiechi pointed out that whether China and the U.S. can handle their relations well bears on the fundamental interests of the two countries and two peoples, as well as the future of the world. When China and the U.S. cooperate, the two countries and the world will benefit. When China and the U.S. are in confrontation, the two countries and the world will suffer severely. The U.S. side needs to have a deep understanding of the mutually beneficial nature of U.S.-China relations and correctly understand China's domestic and foreign policies and strategic intentions. China opposes defining China-U.S. relations as competitive. China attaches importance to the positive remarks on China-U.S. relations made recently by U.S. President Joe Biden. And China has noticed that the U.S. side said it has no intention of containing China's development and does not seek a new Cold War. China hopes the U.S. could adopt a rational, pragmatic China policy and, together with China, respect each other's core interests and major concerns, and follow a path of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. Director Yang expounded China's solemn position on issues related to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Xinjiang, Xizang, and human rights, as well as maritime issues, urging the U.S. side to truly respect China's sovereignty, security, and development interests, and stop using the above issues to interfere in China's internal affairs. The two sides agreed to take action following the spirit of the phone call between the Chinese and U.S. heads of state on September the 10th. Strengthen strategic communication, properly manage differences, avoid conflict and confrontation, seek mutual benefits and win-win results, and work together to bring China-U.S. relations back on the right track of sound and steady development. Next question, please.法新社提问有两个问题，因为美国国防部的官员说，几个月以来，美国已经在台湾训练部队，对此外交部如何评论？另外 CIA 成立了一个中国行动的小组来监控中国安全方面的威胁，对此你如何回应？Your first question. The One China principle is a political foundation for China and U.S. relations. The U.S. must sever diplomatic relations and abrogate its mutual defense treaty with Taiwan, and the U.S. forces must withdraw from Taiwan. And in the 3 joint communiques, the U.S. has stayed committed that the people of the United States will maintain cultural, commercial, and other unofficial relations with the people of Taiwan. The U.S. side should pay attention to the high level of sensitivity and importance of the issue. Stop selling arms to Taiwan and official ties with Taiwan. Otherwise, it would undermine peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. China is firm in defending its national sovereignty and territorial integrity. As for your second question, this is a classic Cold War mentality. Relevant departments of the U.S. should objectively and rationally see China's development and China-U.S. relations, and stop doing anything that harm mutual trust, cooperation, and China's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and development interests. Next question, please. Phoenix TV, a question on Taiwan. President Biden said that he talked about the Taiwan issue in his phone call with President Xi Jinping in accordance with the Taiwan Agreement, but the two sides have differences in what the agreement means. So, what is included in the so-called Taiwan Agreement during the phone call between the heads of state? On October the 6th, Director Yang Jiechi met with NSA Sullivan and elaborated on China's solemn position on Taiwan issue and urged the U.S. to respect China's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and development interests, and also asked the U.S. to stop using the relevant affairs interfering in China's domestic affairs, and urged the U.S. to follow the One China principle. Next question, please.塔斯社。据称，10月2日，美国有一艘核潜艇在南海撞上不明的物体。媒体称，发生此次事件的海域就是在中国南海。请问您对此有何评论？ China is severely concerned about this accident. The U.S. as the side involved in this incident should inform on these relevant details, including the location, the purpose of this navigation, details of the accident, what did the submarine run into, and whether they're involved in a nuclear leakage, and whether the local maritime environment was harmed. I also want to emphasize that for some time, the U.S. side has been making waves in the South China Sea under the banner of freedom of navigation. This is the source of this accident, severely threatening and posing severe risks to regional peace and stability. Second, the U.S. has been delaying and covering the details about this accident. It is acting without any transparency and responsibility. China and the relevant countries around the South China Sea have to doubt the fact and the U.S. intention. Also, this incident has shown that the sales of nuclear submarine through AUKUS to Australia will lead to the dissemination of nuclear technologies and materials and intensify regional security risks. And this would increase the possibility of nuclear risks in the region. Relevant countries should abandon the outdated Cold War mentality and narrow-minded geopolitical vision and stop such wrong acts that will destroy regional peace and stability as well as development. Next question, please. Shenzhen TV. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov recently said that by putting forward an Indo-Pacific strategy and creating a Quad mechanism and an AUKUS security partnership, the U.S. intends to undercut the decades-old ASEAN-centered cooperation model. Such a strategy towards handling regional politics is aimed at opening and containing China and undermining the existing system. Does the Chinese side have any comment? Well said. His statement reflects the common concern of the majority of countries in Asia-Pacific. Be it Indo-Pacific strategy, AUKUS, or the Quad mechanism. They are all small cliques that are exclusive and closed up, with pronouncing Cold War and zero-sum mentality, and smacks of military security nature. This would spur regional arms race, intensify local situation, and undermine regional solidarity and cooperation. The U.S. gaining up to target third parties runs counter to regional countries' efforts to seek cooperation, to seek development through dialogue and cooperation, and to seek regional integration. It wins no support and is doomed to fail. Many regional countries have expressed their doubts and opposition at different degrees to this. The ASEAN-centered regional cooperation framework meets the traditional and realistic needs in East Asia. It means a lot to promoting solidarity, cooperation, and common development among regional countries. It should be cherished and consolidated. Regional countries should stay high alert towards any attempt to hollow out or undermine ASEAN centrality and jointly resist any wrong acts that violates international justice and fairness, or stoke up division, or provoke confrontation in the region. Next question, please. CCTV. During the UNGA First Committee meeting yesterday, China and Russia issued a foreign minister's joint statement on strengthening the BWC. Could you offer more information about the statement and China's position? On October the 7th, during the general debate of the UNGA First Committee, the Chinese side, on behalf of China and Russia, read out the joint statement by State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on strengthening the BWC. This is the first time for China and Russia to release a joint statement on this issue. It demonstrates the high level of the China-Russia comprehensive strategic coordination in a new era, as well as the two countries' strong determination and responsible attitude towards safeguarding global biosecurity and defending multilateralism. The joint statement reiterates that the BWC is essential as a pillar of the international peace and security and should be fully and effectively implemented, with multilateral monitoring and verification mechanisms to be established as soon as possible. It also notes that military biological activities conducted by the U.S. on and outside its national territory pose serious security risks for China, Russia, and other countries in relevant regions. The U.S. has been the only one opposing the establishment of a verification regime for 20 years, which has led to growing international doubts. The statement urges the U.S. to clarify its military biological activities at home and overseas and to stop obstructing the establishment of a verification regime. I would like to stress that the position of China and Russia also demonstrates the wide consensus of the international community. At the recent BWC conference, more than 100 countries called for the resumption of negotiations for a verification protocol so as to establish a verification regime at an early date. However, the U.S. alone has continued to resist the call, in stubborn opposition to the entire international community. This has caused greater suspicion and concern from various sides. China and Russia, together with the international community, will remain committed to strengthening the BWC mechanism, work for substantive outcomes at next year's BWC review conference, and constantly improve the global biosecurity governance system. We also urge the U.S. to adopt a responsible attitude and earnestly address the international community's concerns to give the world confidence in its compliance with BWC obligations as a state party. Next question, please. Reuters 提问。巴基斯坦发生了地震，地震发生在俾路支省，有300余人受伤，也有多人死亡。对此，中方如何评论 ？China pays great attention to the earthquake in Pakistan. We mourn for the deceased and offer our condolences to the bereaved families and the injured. China and Pakistan enjoy a fine tradition of helping each other. We are ready to offer help to the best of our abilities based on Pakistanis' needs. Next question, please. China Daily. It is reported that Ethiopia's new parliament held its first meeting on October the 4th, and the incumbent Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was sworn in for a second term. Do you have any comment? China expresses congratulations on Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's re-election. We believe that under his leadership, Ethiopia will continue to make new achievements in national development. Ethiopia is China's a comprehensive strategic cooperative partner in Africa and a key participant in China-Africa cooperation under the Belt and Road Initiative. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and Ethiopia more than 50 years ago, the bilateral relations have maintained sound development with deepening political mutual trust and fruitful outcomes in cooperation. The Chinese side is looking forward to working together with the new Ethiopian government to continuously scale new heights in the bilateral relations. Next question, please. At the initiative of China and African countries, 78 countries made a joint statement at the general debate of the third committee of the 76th session of the UNGA. They called for accelerated implementation of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action and the elimination of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. Do you have any comment? This year marks the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. Due to the inaction of botched performance of a few countries, including the United States, the international community still has a long way to go in terms of the elimination of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. In a country that opposes all men are created equal, racial discrimination is still widespread. And white supremacy is still existing. COVID-19 further accentuates the systemic racism against ethnic minorities in the US. Dr. Fauci of the NIH said that the inequality in the health conditions, it's the failure of the whole US society. Also, the US has seen unstoppable violence, police brutality, and hate crimes against ethnic minorities, and social inequalities suffered by women, children, and the elderly, as well as other vulnerable groups, are deeply entrenched. This further exposes the cover for equality and freedom in the US. Facing the long-term and systemic racism in a few countries, including the US, they are still resisting and were absent at the commemorative meeting of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. This is irresponsible. If the US truly cares about human rights and stays committed to racial equality, then it should redress its bad track record in human rights, eliminate the racism in its country, instead of letting white supremacy and the hate crimes against ethnic minorities to lead to new tragedies. Next question, please.
Trade representative Catherine
美国贸易代表戴琪将同刘鹤举行会谈，他可能会谈及中国在落实第一阶段经贸协议当中有所不足。这份协议是前总统特朗普同中国所达成的。请问外交部如何评价美近期重新与中方接洽贸易问题的努力？另外，戴琪提到了要如何确保美国与中国再挂钩？请问中方对这个表述是怎么看待的？谢谢。As for the specific question regarding trade relations between China and the U.S., please, I would refer you to competent authorities in China. But in principle, I want to stress that the trade relations between China and the U.S. are essentially mutually beneficial. As for the problems in trade relations between the two countries, the two sides should handle them properly in the spirit of mutual respect and equal-footed consultation. We hope the U.S. can work with China and promote stable and sound development of China-U.S. trade relations. And the formation and development of the global supply chain and industrial chains are born out of the market laws and the choices of businesses. Man-made decoupling violates the economic laws and objective realities, cannot solve the problems one faces, and will severely undermine stability and security of the global industrial chain and supply chain. China and the U.S. need to cooperate rather than decouple, and need to have dialogue rather than confrontation. It's the strong appeal of all spectrums in China and the U.S., including the business community. We hope the U.S. can listen to these people's voices and do more that will benefit sound and steady development of trade relations between China and the U.S. Next question, please.法新社提问。法国参议院的一位成员称台湾为国家，对此您如何评论 There is only one China in the world. Taiwan is an inseparable part of the Chinese territory. Calling Taiwan a country blatantly violates the consensus of the international community, including France. People like Richard are not lacking the basic respect and the recognition of the basic norms governing international relations. If not so, then he is doing out of his self-interests to kidnap state-to-state relations. China expresses its strong condemnation and firm opposition to this. We hope that the French side would earnestly abide by the One China principle and not send wrong signals to the Taiwan independent forces. CCTV. The Afghan Taliban released a statement on the U.S. invasion to Afghanistan for 20 years. Such action have brought economic losses to Afghanistan. I hope that the international community would lend a helping hand and not turn this into pressure on Afghanistan. What is your comment on that? 20 years ago, the U.S., out of counterterrorism excuses, invaded Afghanistan and had a military intervention for 20 years and had a military presence. This undermined the sovereignty and independence of the country and undermined economic development, also led to humanitarian disasters in the country. The wars caused casualty of about 250 people in Afghanistan on a daily basis. Relevant reports have shown that the Afghan war have led to more than 100,000 Afghan civilians' death, and hundreds of thousands of civilians have injured, and millions have been displaced. Facts have proved that what the U.S. have done in Afghanistan are purely out of its self-interests. This is how it started the war and how it stayed in Afghanistan. The case remains so. Now the Afghan people are seeing a new opportunity for peace and reconstruction in this country. The international community should respect the sovereignty and independence of the country, and on that basis support the Afghan people in being the masters of their own destiny, seek stability and sound development. The U.S., as the culprit of the Afghan issue, shoulders unshakable responsibility for peace and reconstruction in the country. It should be held accountable for what it did over the past 20 years. It cannot just leave or shift its responsibility to the international community. The U.S. should change its approach of military intervention or imposing its will onto others and avoid repeating the tragedy of creating sufferings to the people. Next question, please.新社提问。昨天，俄罗斯总统阿富汗事务特别代表称，计划于本月20日召开阿富汗问题国际会议。请问中方是否收到邀请？是否会出席？将派哪位官员出席？ China supports any initiative that will help to bring peace and stability to Afghanistan. I can confirm that China has received the invitation and will stay in communication with relevant parties, including Russia, on the issue. Next question, please. Britain Youth Daily. According to reports, Guinea's interim president Mamadi Doumbouya appointed Mohamed Bouvogi the interim prime minister on October the 6th. Does China have any comment? We noted recent important progress in advancing domestic political transition made by various sides in Guinea. It is China's hope that relevant sides in Guinea will keep up the dialogue and consultation and strive to maintain overall national stability and development with the support of regional and international organizations. China and Guinea have a traditional friendship. We stand ready to work together with Guinea to constantly develop our friendly, cooperative relations. Next question, please. Phoenix TV, a follow-up, and just to verify that a question on the Taiwan agreement mentioned by President Biden. He said that he mentioned that the two sides would comply with the Taiwan agreement during his phone call with President Xi Jinping. Can you confirm this? China's position on the Taiwan question is clear and consistent. The One China principle is the political foundation of China-US relations. The U.S. has made its clear commitment to China. In its phone call with President Xi Jinping, President Biden emphasized that it has no intention to change the One China principle. We hope that the U.S. would abide by the China-U.S. joint communiques and put its words into actions and prudently and properly handle the Taiwan question and not send any wrong signals to Taiwan independence forces and not to undermine the China-US relations or the stability across the Taiwan Strait. Next question, please. A question from NHK, also on Taiwan. The Taiwan Authority will have a military exercise on the 10th. What is your comment? And the Chinese aircraft has entered into the so-called Taiwan airspace identification zone. What is the purpose? The two questions you raised are not diplomatic questions. I would refer you to competent authorities. The Prime Minister of Japan, Kishida, mentioned the importance of China-Japan relations and urged China to take responsible actions at the same time to maintain dialogue to respond to common problems. What is your comment on that? China and Japan are each other's important close neighbors and cooperative partners. We are both important countries in the region, sharing wide common interests and space for cooperation. We hope the Japanese side can work with China, abide by the principles confirmed in the 4 political documents between China and Japan, act in the spirit of drawing lessons from history towards future, step up dialogue and communication, promote mutual trust and cooperation, and jointly promote steady and sound development of the relations towards the right direction. Next question, please.
Just a related question Japanese administration.
关于岸田文雄的另外的一个问题，
Japanese Prime Minister's been on the phone call with President Xi
日本首相计划与习近平主席通话，对此您是否可以证实？是否可以提供更多细节？另外，还是关于习近平主席和拜登总统的会晤的问题，请问您是否可以给我们提供时间线？另外，双方将会谈及什么话题？将以什么样的形式来举行这些此次的会晤？ On your first question, I have noted of relevant reports. I have no further information to offer. As for your second question just now, I have expounded on China's position. So far, no more information to offer you. Next question, please. 路透社提问：美国国务卿布林肯称，美国希望中国在应对恒大问题上可以更加的负有责任。对此，中方有何回应？另外，有报道称，上一周有一些中国的军队被印方士兵短暂的扣留，他们跨越了中印边界。对此，您有何评论？ On your first question, I have noted relevant reports. As for your specific question, I would refer you to competent authorities. What I want to emphasize is China has been taking responsible macroeconomic policies and has been staying committed to promoting high-quality development. China's economy in recent years has become an important driver and a stabilizer of world economic growth, contributing to about 30% for many years in a row. As for a second question, I am not aware of relevant information. Next question, please. Any more questions? That would be the end of today's press briefing. Hope you enjoy your weekend.